In the heart of a bustling Nigerian city of Lagos, stood a church unlike any other but with a whole lot of difference in so many ways. Spark of Salvation Ministry, where suits sparkled like diamonds, hats were taller than egos, and wealth was praised as the highest sign of salvation. Among its most celebrated members were two childhood friends, Victor and Sam. They were legends from their school days in the eyes of a teeming students of their time who idolized them for their contributions to their school. Where Victor was calm and calculating, Sam was bold and brilliant and very vibrant, with so many girls always throwing themselves on him. From a dusty classroom up 2 in of Bashur to skyscrapers in the city of Lagos, their bond had never weakened nor broken. They had both tasted poverty and knew well enough never to allow anything that will make them have another taste it, especially after going through the struggles and now bathing in wealth, owning businesses, driving well-engineered machines in the name of vehicles that turned heads, and living in homes that are palaces in their own rights. But behind the glamour, a dark, quiet shadow was watching and concocting strategies that was vastly gaining momentum. Spark of Salvation Ministry was more than a church. It was a runway for the rich and glamour. Every Sunday was a fashion parade with men and women jumping up with the guise of having something to do outside while everyone is seated, just to flaunt their fashion glory for the day: lace, silk, agbatas, gold-rimmed Bibles, and perfume that smelled of power. They preferred dancing down the aisle to donate their Sunday offering instead of passing round the basket. Victor and Sam sat in the front row, right next to the stand of the glamorous choir. Pastor Carnayer, the man of charisma, who preached with fire but smiled with secrets, glittering with a well-tailored brown suit, sat not too far from their reach. To the church, Victor and Sam were both brothers in Christ and brothers in wealth. But behind their laughter and matching suits, a silent competition brewed between their wives, whose weekly donations to their respective fashion designers was appalling, and screamed of who would dress better, who would outshine the other in the name of God. Still, nothing threatened the bond of boys to men from days back, until Sam's fortune took a sudden dive down the drain. It began slowly and steadily, and of course from insignificant losses to damaging misfortunes. Cancellation of contract, then another, and another. His workers began to complain of spiritual attacks behind the ears of management. His bank account started bleeding with sorrow from metaphysical drainage. Within months, Sam's company was sinking, with everything looking so fine on the surface. And no matter how much he sowed seeds, attended vigils, or fasted, his breath of redemption was way too far-fetched. The only thing he really had going very well for him was the friendship that was priceless. Victor stood by him, giving moral support and even money for recapitalization, hoping that his troubles was just for a season. But even Sam couldn't deny the whispers going around, the burdens, the pains, the demoralization that he had to endure, even from the least of his employees. Boss is under attack. Maybe it's his enemies from the village. Or, maybe God is punishing him for something he must have done, because you never can really tell with most of these rich men. Nemesis always finds a way of catching up with them. Rumors gained the grace of becoming an open gist amongst the employees who needed an entertaining gist. But the truth was worse than anyone could imagine. How did all of these problems started? He had considered a lot of possibilities, but one or two possible cause of his problems which he was always quick to wave off was his friend Victor having a hand in it, because they both know too much of each other's business. It couldn't be, he assured himself several times. His mind waded through the people of his village, both known and unknown. Victor did the best he could to make sure that Sam is not always alone at home, thinking and worried. He deliberately invited him over to his place several times to keep him company and diverted his mind the best way possible for the time being. He had come to notice a growing discomfort in Sam when he came around, so he figured that Sam is beginning to worry about Victor's wife getting a hang of what was happening. So one evening, Victor had to change their location to a quiet bar far to calm his nerves and probably incubate a next strategy to remedy the situation at hand. As they sipped their drinks in a nice cozy corner that spelled the atmosphere of the breath of wealth, a man, looking lost and out of place, had the confidence and audacity to come through the space, disregarding the demeaning stares from onlookers, walked in, old, ragged, with deep eyes that seemed to look through their souls. Victor and Sam looked at him questioningly as the man stopped at their table, looking down at them. "This is not my place. I don't belong here. But I bring you salvation," the man said without introduction. As usual, Victor was slow to respond, but Sam always had enough to unleash. "Mr. Man, do we know you? What do you want and how did you get in here?" Sam questioned. "Like I said, I bring you salvation." He looked directly at Victor. "I see you don't talk much. I am here because I know why your friend is suffering." "Excuse me," Sam said and growled silently and gently shaking his head while picking up his glass of wine to sip from. "Please sit beside me," Victor said after a brief consideration, but before the man could respond, Sam said, "What?" with a surprise. "Like I said, this is not my place and I don't belong here. If you really want to help your friend, meet me outside now. I will be standing beside your car," the man said and walked away. Victor stood up to go with him, but Sam was never ready to indulge in such nonsense. He refused to go. Victor persisted in his persuasion and was actively begging Sam to go with him. Just when Victor decided to go to the man alone, Sam reluctantly joined him. Victor and Sam exchanged glances when they got outside and got a good look at the man beside Victor's car, who was initially partially disguised by the dimly lit bar. The man introduced himself as Prophet Iduma, a servant of the Most High who did not walk with the crowd. "Your church. Spark of salvation, it shines bright, but it is a spark from darkness." Sam smiled with joy and was happy that Victor actually deserved to hear the nonsense that he dragged them out to come and listen to. The man continued and told them a tale too wild to believe, of Pastor Carnair, a man who had exchanged his soul for power. Every time he slept with the wife of a wealthy man, their spiritual covering broke, their businesses collapsed, their homes shambled and turned cold. And his own influence grew, his powers, his wealth, and his grips with the marine kingdom is strengthened. "You, Sam, your wife has already slept with him." Sam nearly choked on his drink that he came out with. He dropped the glass on the bonnet of Victor's car and became more attentive. "And you, Victor," the prophet said with sadness in his eyes, "you are a good man for standing by your friend in all of these, but I am afraid that nobody will stand for you. Because as we speak, it is your turn. Your wife is already preparing to meet with him tonight. She told you about a vigil tonight." Nonsense. The whole vigil thing was orchestrated for your downfall, your doom. And when it happens to you, you will not be able to be there for your friend and nobody will be there for you. You will just be like the crowd of other numerous victims in that evil gathering you call a church. Many men and women are just putting up faces, but their wives have already been used to ruin their family glory and destiny. Victor's heart slammed against his chest with the divinely timed revelation. He recalled that some complaints and rumors had gone round within the space of the church and he himself had been instrumental in silencing and sweeping them under the carpet each time. There was no iota of reason to doubt any of this revelation. The fact was right there in his face as he evidently recalled that his wife had simply and casually mentioned that she was going to the church for a vigil tonight. She was not even sure if Victor heard her, but he was a man that is attentive and misses out on little or nothing. He remembered again that the prophet had looked directly at him and told him that it was his time for doom. But how does one take such an announcement that you have been condemned for ruin? He dialed his wife's number and the phone just kept on ringing but no answer. Again. And again. Nothing. Panic gripped him like a vice. He became confused on how to handle the situation with Sam right there, and his wife was somewhere with his evil pastor right then. Prophet Iduma could tell what was going on in his mind and he simply placed his hand on Victor's right shoulder. "Go, save your wife and save your family, save yourself." Then he turned his back to both of them, lifted up his both hands and prayed silently with his eyes closed. The prophet took Sam outside to begin prayers for his deliverance while Victor was already speeding anxiously away. He sped through the streets with his headlights slicing through the night like blades. He was glad that he was practically driving against the rush-hour traffic that had held on to that time of the night because of the heavy rain that fell that afternoon. He became very relaxed when he was just 2 buildings away from his house and planned on the best line he would use to open conversation with his wife as soon as he got home. He drove in through his gate and his temperature slightly rose when he noticed that her car was not in the garage. He rushed into his house and was greeted by his daughter, sitting in the parlor. He asked her about his wife and his daughter informed him that Mom had gone to the church. That was when he remembered that the prophet had mentioned a guest house, one the pastor used for his private counseling. Victor rushed out just the same way that his blood was scaling his vein. He endured the hours in traffic and managed to get to the guest house. As Victor approached the building, he saw it, dimly lit, with a quiet, evil peace. His heart beat faster as he rushed to the door. But the little gate downstairs was locked and secured. He banged severally on it but there was no response, and right there beside him was his wife's car parked beside the pastor's car. There was no sign of any other person present, and that confirmed the truth about the clandestine affair. No response. Inside, his wife sat on a plush chair, confused by the candles and odd incense. The atmosphere was looking both fetish and romantic. She was not sure of what to think, especially with the kind of evocative sounds or music that sneaked in through the spaces around the closed door that connected to the other room. Even though she was initially gripped with fear but she overcame it because she was with her pastor who is a strong man of God, or so she thought. Pastor Carnayer sat uncomfortably close to her and her breath became heavy with uncertainty. Just when he reached for the tin that contained a purple-colored powdery substance, there was an alarming knock on the gate. He paused to listen and the knock only persisted. He stood up and went to the window side and stood by the window, watching with disappointment at his discovery that it was Victor. It was his appointed day with Marine Coven and he is well revered for not disappointing, especially on days of his appointment. He wondered what to do and how to go about solving the situation at hand. He went into a separate room and used the intercom to inform the corporate guard personnel on duty to send Victor away immediately. The guards reinforced themselves and hurried towards the gate, but were shocked to see who the target was. Pastor Carnayer was slow to remember that the corporate guard was one of Victor's companies and their service to the church and the guest house was part of his free contributions to the church. The guards joined Victor in banging on the gate and were making preparations to climb over. Victor persisted with his knocks and eventually, he started calling out his wife, Amaka. Amaka, it's me. It's Victor. Open the gate. Open the gate now. That's my husband. Open this gate. What is happening here? Amaka recognized her husband's voice and quickly jumped to her feet while wondering why Pastor Carnayer was reluctant in opening the gate for her husband. She wasn't aware of his evil intention because Carnayer only directed her to meet him there to discuss personal pressing matters before they could proceed to church chapel for the vigil. As she tried to take her first step, her knee bashed against the edge of the center table causing the small tin to fall and the purple powdery substance spilled out. She became instantly hypnotized and found herself pulled towards the powder on the table. The effect was instant and strong and Carnayer was fully aware of what was happening to her but he was undecided on aborting his evil intention or proceeding with it as fast as he could. Meanwhile, some strong forces from the marine world were already alerted and were around to proceed with their dedicated harvest of the day but they couldn't go in to intervene in the prevailing situation because Victor came in with powers that he didn't even know. Prophet Aduma foresaw what was to come and he prayed for him, fortified him and inviting divine armory to go with him. He was divinely armed and protected but unknown to him. Just then, there was a knock on the entrance door to the living room where they were. One of the security personnel had succeeded in climbing over the small gate and got access to the stairway, opening and leading the rest of them to the main door. Carnayer realized it was over and quickly held Amaka back from touching the powder. He picked up the container, cleared the substance and covered the lid back. He hurriedly unlocked the door to avoid further suspicion with any form of delay. The door opened violently and Victor, who was battle-ready, was shocked to see his wife Amaka standing almost like a statue. She was yet to fully regain her consciousness from the hypnotic effect of the evil powder. Victor held her hand and tried to shake her into consciousness. With her eyes dazed and weak, she slowly looked at her husband and wept as he came close to embrace her. Victor was grateful for the timely intervention because it was evident that the pastor had not succeeded in having sex with her before their arrival. While still embracing his wife, Victor's glance caught an image of Pastor Carnayer standing behind Amaka, smiling but obviously without shame. "You are too late," he said, calm and bold. "She and your family glory would have been a blessing to me, but it doesn't matter. She just happened to be one unfortunate seed, but there are too many others for the harvest." Victor's fists tightened, but before he could act, the man laughed, a laugh that echoed with something inhuman, and even the security men were scared. "I am not your enemy," the pastor said, turning to go. "Your greed for glory is, I only gave what you chased." Victor was always calm, calculating and logical, even in the face of struggles and difficulties. He had figured that it was best he completely recuse his wife at that moment, save the day and retune to Prophet Iduma for the way forward. He took his wife home and made sure she was fine. Then he got outside to his balcony and started making calls, first to Sam and then some other people. 2 days later he was back on appointment at Prophet Iduma's hidden prayer room with Sam. Some very powerful works of deliverance and restoration took place. Sam was knocked down to the floor, convulsing. Strange voices screamed from his throat. His wife knelt beside him, weeping and confessing, but her confession wasn't new because they all knew why they were there. Victor stood by the door with his face blanked with shock, holding Amaka closely while looking down at his friend, his brother. Prophet Iduma raised his hands up again and prayed again. "These men chased light, but not the true one. The Lord delivers not by silver or seed, but by spirit and truth. They have come back to you because you have chosen to intervene and deliver them. You love them, and that is why they are here, and you are here for them. Fulfill and complete what you have already started in their life." A mighty wind seemed to blow through the room, candles flickered, and then, silence followed. Sam lay still and peacefully on the floor as everyone watched in silence. Then, Victor fell to his knees, whispering thanks and comforting his friend Sam with strokes of his palm across the side of his head like young lovers. Amaka wept as she watched them. Then she reached out and held Sam's wife by her hand. Victor helped Sam to stand up to his feet, and the prophet did a general prayer to all of them and blessed them all. Weeks later, Spark of Salvation Ministry suffered a scandal that shook the city. Pastor Carnayer disappeared and no church service was held. The church was totally abandoned with no security available around to secure and protect the life of the people and the properties. The administration of the church collapsed because it was structurally centered around Pastor Carnayer. The scandal even led people to wonder why he was never friendly with single ladies that trooped into the church to seek attention. Some said he went abroad for an emergency, but that was just an official statement issued to save the face of Spark of Salvation Ministry. Others said, the Marine Kingdom took him back. Sam regained his business. But he chose a simpler life. Victor and Amaka renewed their marital vows with a bottle of champagne in their living room with just the two of them. Promising to be completely open to each other as they had been and inform each other about the suspicions, opening, thoughts, and above all, they chose to practically live as one. Making just faith, love, and truth to be their pastor. Because in the end, the brightest spark is the one that comes from within. Not all that glitters is godly. And not all that shines brings salvation. But in the heart of darkness, even a small true light can set a soul free.